Iga Swiatek wins Wimbledon, and who would have thought that this was possible after the tough season that Iga has had ever since she couldn't get the title on the red clay of Roland Garros at the Olympics. That's when the problem started for Iga, and it wasn't all bad from Iga. She had some patches up to this point where she did play some good tennis, but she also had some losses that were very uncharacteristic. But it appears that Iga is now back in top form because when Iga plays like this, she is the best player in the world. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that this is the case. And the reason why I say this is what I mentioned in the last video where I previewed this final. Iga absolutely destroys her opponents. And it's not that she destroys players that are ranked 40, 50, 60 in the world. She destroys players who are top 20 or even top 10. Now, she unfortunately absolutely destroyed Amanda Anisimova in this final 6-0, 6-0. And I'm so gutted for Amanda Anisimova for several reasons. But first, I want to say that the circumstances in this final were such where Amanda shouldn't really feel bad about the way she performed. Because, first of all, it's not easy to be on the center court of Wimbledon and play your first final. You're going to feel a lot of nerves, and there are other great champions, such as Chris Evert, who played in her first Wimbledon final against Billie Jean King, and Chris also lost the first set 6-0. And it was nice to hear Chris talk about her experience during the ESPN coverage. So that's one factor. The nerves were definitely causing a lot of problems for Amanda. But on top of that, she unfortunately had to play a top level Swiatek who does this to a lot of players. And that is something that's to some extent very similar to Yannick Sinner. Of course, not the same power, but Yannick Sinner put so much pressure on opponents that he also tends to destroy opponents. Maybe not necessarily in the Grand Slams, but remember when he beat Casper Ruud 6-0, 6-1? Iga is similar in that sense where she has so much action on her balls and she does play very aggressive tennis, and she also plays mistake free tennis. On top of that, if she's serving well, and she's now serving much faster than she used to, and she also returns incredibly well, it's quite usual for the opponent to get completely destroyed and only collect one or two games. And there were many other players that had suffered from Iga absolutely destroying them. And I'm just going to give you one example, and that is Jesse Pegula in the WTA finals when they were held in Cancun in 2023, I believe. In the final, Iga destroyed Pegula 6-1, 6-0. Now, the week prior to Wimbledon, Pegula beat Iga on grass. Interestingly, Amanda Anisimova beat Putintseva in the first round of this year's Wimbledon 6-0, 6-0. Now, do you know who Putintseva took out last year at Wimbledon in the third round? Well, it was Iga Swiatek. So this is something that's very common on the WTA Tour, these lopsided scorelines. Another example that I can give you is Madison Keys, who won the Australian Open this year by beating Swiatek and Sabalenka. And then at Indian Wells, Madison Keys in the semifinals only got one game against Sabalenka. Now, unfortunately for Amanda, this result will be remembered forever. And I'm going to give you a comparison to another player called Natasha Zvereva, who lost in the 1988 Roland Garros final to Steffi Graf 6-0, 6-0 in 32 minutes. She is remembered by this result, and everything else that she did is overshadowed by this result. Unfortunately, even the fact that she made it into the final is overshadowed by her losing 6-0, 6-0. Now, Zvereva was a great singles player. In addition to making the finals at Roland Garros, she also made the semifinals at Wimbledon, and she also is one of the greatest doubles players in WTA history. She won 80 titles and 18 Grand Slam tournaments and was inducted into the International Hall of Fame together with her longtime doubles partner, Gigi Fernandez. So unfortunately, a lot of people don't remember Zvereva by her amazing results on the tennis court. They remember her by losing to Steffi Graf 6-0, 6-0. See, if you lose a match where you had chances to win, let's take the center match against Alcaraz in the Roland Garros final where he had 3 match points. That hurts a lot. But it also hurts to lose a match 6-0, 6-0. I have lost matches 6-0, 6-0. And it's the most horrible feeling when you're on the court and all of a sudden it's 4-0, 5-0 in the first set and you start thinking, wow, I'm going to lose a set 6-0, and you get a little bit tight. Now, once you lose that set 6-0 and you get down 2-0 or 3-0 in the second set, now you start thinking, I might lose this match 6-0, 6-0, and all of a sudden you get even more tight. And once you end up losing 6-0, 6-0, you feel humiliated and embarrassed, and that type of loss sticks in your mind for a long time. Now, you can multiply us regular players losing 6-0, 6-0 by 10,000 because the Wimbledon final is the most prestigious event that we have in tennis. And to lose a final 6-0, 6-0 where you have royalty watching, where you have celebrities watching, the whole world is tuned in, this is going to sting for a while for Amanda. I'm wishing and hoping that she can take some time off, don't even read social media, and hopefully get back on the practice courts and start doing big things on the hard court swing. The more she starts winning, the more she will erase this, not only from her memory, but also from the memory of the global tennis audience. Now let's talk about why this match ended up being 6-0, 6-0. So in my preview to the women's final, I said that if Anisimova comes out nervous, Iga could blow her off the court. And unfortunately, this is exactly what happened. The very first point of the match, Amanda framed a backhand. And I had a bad feeling right off the bat when I saw that. Now, what made things a lot worse for Amanda, that Iga was on absolute fire in today's match, and her tactics were excellent. So, as I said in my preview, Amanda's weakness is her forehand. Now, her forehand improved a lot. She had changed her technique somewhat recently, and she's gotten much stronger on the forehand side, but her backhand is way better than her forehand. And more specifically, Amanda's weakness is hitting balls on the run, especially on the forehand side. So if Iga could expose the forehand on the run, Amanda was going to be in a lot of trouble. Now, on top of that, it was very important for Iga to have a high first serve percentage, which she did. And it was also important for Amanda to have a high first serve percentage, because not only can she throw in a double fault here and there on her second serve, but Iga is possibly the greatest returner on the WTA Tour. And she's going to put a tremendous amount of pressure on you if you're not only missing your first serve, or if you're not serving well in general. She is amazing at returns. And that's unfortunately what was happening right off the bat in this match. Iga was making one return after another, and Anisimova didn't really have any opportunity to get comfortable in this match. She lost her serve right away. Iga held, and the crucial moment in this match was the 2-0 game where Amanda had 40-15 on her serve. So if she holds that game, it's 2-1. This could be a completely different match. Now, I'm not saying that Amanda would have won it, but maybe the score would have been 3-3. But Amanda, after being up 40-15, she loses this game, and she did dump a very easy forehand into the net at 40-30, which further hurt her confidence. When you miss an easy shot like that, this does take a lot of your confidence away from that particular shot. See, Amanda is more of an old school WTA player with flat topspin ground strokes. So a lot of players nowadays on the WTA Tour have more vertical swing paths, and they apply quite a bit of spin on their forehands. On the backhand, it's very rare to see a lot of topspin on the WTA Tour. Iga, of course, can create a lot of topspin with her backhand, but generally the backhands are more flat on the WTA. But in modern times, the forehands have gotten heavier. So there's nothing wrong with this type of forehand, but it does require adjustments, because when the timing is late on a forehand that's more flat, you're going to make a tremendous amount of mistakes, because topspin in a way can correct poor timing. So what was happening today with Amanda, possibly due to nerves, is that she wasn't setting up well and she was catching a lot of forehands late, especially the ones on the run. And unfortunately, her shot selection was poor, also possibly due to nerves. She was pulling the trigger way too fast and tried to get out of the points early, and she was hitting forehands late and at the same time trying to hit winners down the line, and she was committing a tremendous amount of mistakes. On top of that, she was missing a lot of forehands and backhands into the net. So when you're nervous on the tennis court, and who wouldn't be nervous stepping out onto the center court to play a Wimbledon final for the first time? So this is completely normal for it to happen. But in the context of losing 6-0, 6-0, see, normally the nerves dissipate at some point. And I do think that she would have lost some of that nervousness if she would have held that game at 2-0. But she didn't, and she continued to play tight because she didn't want to lose a set 6-0, and of course she didn't want to lose 6-0, 6-0 in the final. So she was tight through the entirety of the match. And when you're tight, one thing that's very common is that your feet slow down. It's almost as if you're stuck in quicksand. And that was certainly the case for Amanda, and that's one reason why she was so late on a lot of her shots. On top of that, when you're tight, the radius of your strokes becomes smaller and you have a harder time getting depth or even hitting balls over the net. And it's for that reason why Amanda was hitting a lot of forehands and backhands into the net. Now, being tight on the tennis court can also present other challenges when it comes to strokes. And most commonly, players start to steer the ball. They are scared to hit it and they decelerate in that very important phase around the contact, and they just steer and push the ball, and that results in a lot of balls going long. So it's not only that Amanda was hitting into the net, she was also hitting long quite a bit in this match. Now, to make matters worse, Iga wasn't giving her any time to breathe because she was playing absolutely flawless tennis. She was exposing that weakness that Amanda has on her forehand side, and Iga was definitely hitting more balls to the forehand side and getting Amanda off the court towards the doubles alley. Iga was also serving really well, not only very consistently, but also faster than usual. So she wasn't giving Amanda opportunities to attack her second serve. And on top of all that, Iga was also returning spectacularly well, and Amanda wasn't getting a lot of first serves in play. I think her first serve percentage was 45% for the match, and the second serve was shaky as well. She threw in 5 double faults. So put all this together, and that's how you end up with a 6-0, 6-0 final. Tennis can be an absolute brutal game at times, and it can really destroy you mentally. It can reduce you to tears and put you in a bad mood, sometimes for days, weeks, months, or even years. That's how tough of a sport this is. But one great thing about tennis is that it gives you a lot of chances to redeem yourself. And Amanda will have more opportunities very shortly to redeem herself. And like I said, the more she wins, the more people will forget about this match. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people will criticize the WTA Tour for this final, and they will say that equal prize money is not deserved. But this is part of tennis. You're going to have circumstances where in a big final, one player underperforms while the other player is on absolute fire. This can happen and has happened many times on the ATP Tour as well. Of course, the men play 5 sets, so they have a little bit more time to get into a match if they are playing poorly. And I made the suggestion that WTA should maybe look into playing best of 5, because imagine if Amanda had another set to get comfortable out there. It is unlikely that this match would have been 6-0, 6-0, 6-0. Maybe Amanda would have gotten into a groove, shaken off her nerves, and maybe this could have been a nice match to watch. Now, I've heard a lot of players on the WTA Tour are opposed to this idea of playing best of 5 sets, but by playing best of 3 sets on the women's side, this is a risk that is unavoidable, because again, in some circumstances, players are going to get blown out in finals. This is not the first time or the last time this has happened. Let's just be fair and remember the amazing Grand Slam finals that we got to witness in 2025. Remember Madison Keys at the Australian Open? How exciting was that? And how about Coco Gauff at Roland Garros? How exciting was that? So I've said this before and I'll say it again. Female tennis is by far the best female sport there is. The level has never been better. We have fantastic players at the very top of the game. With Iga Swiatek, we're seeing possibly one of the greatest players of all time, someone who could be regarded as the greatest clay court player in the history of tennis. She has a chance to pass Chris Evert's 7 Roland Garros titles. Iga is still young, and now she has proven that she can win the Channel Slam. She can win Roland Garros and Wimbledon back to back. So take it easy on the WTA Tour if you happen to be a hater, and remember that these female players put in the same amount of work as the male players. They start tennis very young, and they dedicate their entire lives to the game of tennis, and they put a tremendous amount of work into becoming one of the world's best players. So they deserve a lot of respect.